Today's chief guest of the occasion, Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Union Minister of State. The guest of the honor of today's function, Janab Omar Abdullah Sahab, Honorable Chief Minister of the UT of Jammu and Kashmir. Honorable Member Parliament, Shri Jugal Kishore Sharma ji. Shri Atul Dullu, worthy Chief Secretary, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. Srimati Rachna Shah, Secretary, Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions. Shri Puneet Yadav ji, Additional Secretary DRPG, Srimati Sarita Chauhan ma'am, Additional Secretary DRPG, Government of India, Shri M. Raju, Commissioner. Deepo Jyoti Param Brahma, Deepo Jyoti Param Brahma, Deepo Jyoti Janardana, Deepo Harto Me Papam, Deepo Jyotir Namastate. The lamp represents the divine here, and may this sacred light remove all the darkness and.
Honorable Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Chief Minister of J&K Shri Omar Abdullah ji, Honorable Member Parliament Jammu ji, Shri Jugal Kishore ji, Secretary Department of Personnel and DRPG Srimati Rachna Shah ji, distinguished officers, delegates from across India, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a matter of great pride that this important conference is being held in Jammu. So I warmly welcome all of you to Jammu and Kashmir. The theme of this conference is very powerful: holistic development of districts and transforming governance for Viksit Bharat. We know that India does not grow from Delhi alone. India grows from its districts, and districts grow when governance touches the life of the last citizen. As Mahatma Gandhi had said, the soul of India lives in its villages. Today we may say the strength of India lies in its districts. When a district performs well, a child gets education, a farmer gets irrigation, a patient gets treatment, a young person gets employment. That is real governance affecting the lives of the people. In Jammu and Kashmir, we have seen how district level initiatives can change lives of the people. We have many examples. In Kupwara, young girls from remote villages are now preparing for competitive exams with digital support and mentorship. Many of them are first generation learners. In Ramban, through e-Suvidha, citizens can access government services without traveling long distances in difficult terrain,
And providing valuable direction and a way forward. We all know that principle of minimum government and maximum governance has been the central theme of contemporary governance model in India, emphasizing on administrative reforms, streamlining of transparency and citizen centricity service delivery. Of Honorable Dr. Jitendra Singh ji. And today on this occasion, we request him and the Honorable Chief Minister, UT of J&K, joined by other dignitaries, to release the e-journal of minimum government and maximum governance, please. With your valuable insights, sir.
Honorable Union Minister, Jugal Kishore Sahab, Honorable MP, Atul Dullu Sahab, Chief Secretary, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, Rachna Shah Sahiba, Secretary, Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Puneet Yadav Sahab, Additional Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, Sarita Chauhan Sahiba, Joint Secretary, DARPG, M. Raju Sahab, Commissioner Secretary, GAD, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, officers both serving and retired, present here today. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Let me add my own words of welcome to the words already spoken by my Chief Secretary, Jitendra Sahab. Welcome to Jammu and Kashmir. It's a pleasure for us to be able to host all of you here at this important conference on improving governance with a view towards developing India or Viksit Bharat by 2027. The truth is that Viksit Bharat or a developed India will only be a reality if all of India develops. A developed India or a Viksit Bharat will not be a reality if that development is confined only to a handful of states or regions, unless Jammu and Kashmir in the very north, to Assam in the very east, Gujarat in the west, Tamil Nadu and Kerala in the south, and everything in between, unless all of us see that development, that progress, Viksit Bharat will remain a dream and a slogan. So how does the whole of India develop? It develops through conferences like this. It develops through taking a ground-up approach rather than a bottom-down approach. Development, as has been rightly pointed out by Atul a little earlier, has to be modeled on good governance and good governance at the level of our districts. If our districts perform, our states, our union territories perform. If our states and union territories perform, our country performs. And if our country performs, the goal of a Viksit Bharat in 2047 will perhaps be realized before the timeline of 2047 that we have set for ourselves. Now, how do conferences and workshops like this help people like me? They help us by ensuring that we're not forced to reinvent the wheel, that the best practices in one district are shared with other districts, that the best practices in a state are shared with other states. For far too long, we've lived in individual silos where sharing of information was discouraged rather than encouraged, where sharing of practices was frowned upon rather than rewarded. But thankfully, over the last few years, we are seeing more holistic governance, more working together, more ensuring that what one state or what one territory is doing well, others are able to follow. There is no quick fix solution to any of our problems. There is no one solution fits all to any of our problems either. What works in one state may not work in another. What works in Jammu and Kashmir may not work in Gujarat or Maharashtra. But we can definitely modify what is being done to suit our local conditions. And in this, I think a number of advances have already been made in terms of how government is performing. Minimum government, maximum governance. One of the reforms that I have seen, which has made a huge difference to the way in which we are able to work, and I've seen this transition between my previous term in office and my current one, is the whole e-office, the way in which paper files have been completely done away with. This is a transition that I believe was a long time coming. And the reason I say that is because I've had the experience of working both sides. And I remember my first administrative job, government job, was in Government of India, Ministry of Commerce. And I remember when I first went in there, one of the joint secretaries who had been asked to sort of transition me in from civilian life to government life was explaining how the systems worked. And I was shown this in-house system where every officer in the Commerce Ministry had an email address and they were supposed to be readily available on email for any communication or correspondence. I thought this is great because I'd come from the corporate sector. I thought this is something I can definitely work with. And I remember reading, I think in the newspapers, something about some developments that were taking place in the World Economic Forum and also with regard to our quantitative restrictions on imports that we were doing away with. And I needed some more information on that. So I shot off an email to an additional secretary who will remain unnamed because obviously has long retired from that post. And I shot off an email saying, I'd like a little bit more information about this, and could I please have it? And I thought, chalo, I've sent an email, I'll get an email back. And I waited that day, nothing. Next day, nothing. 3 days, nothing. By the fourth day, I was convinced that I'd made a mistake, that I'd violated some protocol, that I should have actually asked my private secretary. Maybe he should have got the information for me. And I forgot all about it. About 20 or 25 days later, I had a file on my table that thick. And the front page on the file was a printout of my email saying the Honorable MOS has desired the following information. Please make it available to him. So my email resulted in a file about a foot thick. We've come a long way from there. We've come now to a point where I very rarely, if ever, see a paper file. I think the only paper files I sign are the ones the Chief Secretary brings to me at the end of every cabinet meeting, because we sign them and then they go to the Honorable Lieutenant Governor. Everything else comes digitally, and that's made life for us a whole lot easier. It's also opened a completely different challenge, because now every file is time-stamped. So all of us get into this competition to see who can have the strangest time that they've cleared files. So I hear horror stories of some officers who set alarms for 3 o'clock in the morning just so that they can sign the file at 3 o'clock in the morning, so that the rest of us think, wow, this guy is really hardworking. While the rest of us are sleeping, his or her file has a 3 o'clock in the morning timestamp. But then that's the way it is. And another huge change for me is the way in which we have adopted technology to have meetings. There was a time in my previous term in office where a meeting with my district collectors meant I had to get them to leave the districts, come to either Jammu or Srinagar, depending where the capital was, and then sit down and meet them, as a result of which I think that happened probably once a year or twice a year. Now it happens at the drop of a hat. Again, both good and bad. The good thing is they're easily available for meetings. The bad thing is we tend to drag them into meetings there where we don't actually need them. And we need to be a bit more disciplined in terms of using this facility so that they're not present just at the drop of a hat. So my point is that the technology is available. The opportunity is there. The goal is in front of us. We just have to use it to make sure that it works right. If we have a single window, it should actually be a single window. In my experience, I find that a single window actually leads to another window, which probably leads to a ventilator, which leads to a wall behind it, and doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to. So this is where workshops, conferences, meetings like this help, because all of you are working at the cutting edge. You're working at the grassroots level. You're working in districts, in parts of the country far removed from here. You have your own experiences, we have ours. And when we sit down in rooms like this, it gives us an opportunity to share what we are doing with you, and also face-to-face contact. It makes it easier for us tomorrow, having met all of you here, to be able to pick up the phone if there's something that we need to discuss with you or you need to discuss with us. So this conference, these workshops serve two purposes. One, they allow us to share best practices, but they also allow us to cement relationships between each other so that we're able to sort of maintain contact and do what we have to do. Because at the end of the day, whether it is myself, Dr. Jitendra Singh Sahab, or the Honorable MP, we have the same goal as you, which is to ensure that the people get what they expect from us in terms of development, in terms of governance, in terms of services. They receive a government that delivers on its promises and its commitments, whether in education, in health, in development, or any other sector. And therefore, it's heartening that on a regular basis, 3 or 4 times a year, these large conferences are taking place. I'm grateful to the Honorable Union Minister that this time he chose Jammu for this. I hope, maybe if not this year, now that we've held this year here, maybe next year, sometime later in the year, we can entice you to come to Srinagar and keep this process going. But with the hope that the deliberations in this workshop will be shared with all of us so that we can learn from your experiences and improve our governance with the minimum of government. Once again, I welcome you all to Jammu and Kashmir and wish the rest of your deliberations all success. Thank you very much.
Honorable Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah Sahab, at the outset, I have to thank you for having spared your valuable time. I know you just now came from Delhi for this program. So that also speaks volumes about the kind of importance that you give to the subject that is being discussed today. लोकसभा में मेरे वरिष्ठ साथी, इस क्षेत्र का प्रतिनिधित्व करने वाले आपके लोकप्रिय सांसद श्रीमान जुगल किशोर शर्मा जी, चीफ सेक्रेटरी अटल टुल्लू साहब, मैम रचना शाह, my colleague in the Department of Personnel, Shri Puneet Yadav, Mrs. Sarita Chauhan, and of course Mr. M. Raju has been working day and night because I have the bad habit of calling up officers at all times on their mobile phone to check what's going on. And he's been receiving our calls with at least apparent magnanimity, even though he might have been discomforted at all hours, but he's worked very hard for this conference. And of course, all the senior officers from the government of Jammu and Kashmir, the central government. I can see the former chief secretary, members of the IIPA, all very veterans over here, and also representing officers from different states and union territories of government of India. So glad to be once again being here in the city of Jammu. I think the question that some may like to ask is why this national conference and why hold it in Jammu? And the answer to that is that soon after this government came in 2014, one of the cautious decisions we took, and I was very passionate about it, that we should move the Bharat Sarkar out of the confines of the Vigyan Bhavan of Delhi. Omar Sahab, having himself been a union minister, will bear me out that all these conventions and conferences like this were mostly held at Vigyan Bhavan because of the ease of arrangements. You just walk in, everything is in place. But I thought if we actually meant to serve the purpose of what we are doing, we have to start moving out of the national capital. So I'm glad by turn we would go to north, to south, to east, to west, to northeast. And we would follow this principle by spirit of it. For example, if we went to northeast, we didn't come back from Guwahati. We went up to the northern easternmost state of Arunachal Pradesh, held a conference at Itanagar, and I personally felt gratified that many of the senior officers, the Secretary of the Government of India said that they were traveling to Itanagar for the first time after 35 years of service. Similarly, if we went to north, Honorable Chief Minister will be glad to know we've already held this conference in Srinagar, then the subsequent over here. But in your term, again, we'll go back to Srinagar. So we are actually going to the most peripheral areas, trying to hold it. And therefore, now as far as the civil services and the governance is concerned, even though Sardar Patel described this as a steel frame of governance, and some of the critics at that time described the Indian administrative service as a reincarnation of the erstwhile Indian civil service of the British Empire. But the other part of the truth is that the change, though subtle and silent, began right from the freedom of midnight. When the district head, who was earlier known as the district collector, came to be known as District Development Commissioner. Because as collector, he was supposed to collect revenue for the empire. Now he was supposed to generate revenue for the welfare state. So the entire profile began, and therefore rightly so, I think Sardar Sahab had in his very first meeting with the IAS officers implored upon them to reorient themselves to the requirements of the new democracy. And but a more intense, a more consistent, and a more cautious effort began soon after Prime Minister Modi took over in 2014. And I know how many of you in this room recall that we were sworn in on the evening of 26 May 2014, and just within 3 or 4 months, in the month of September or October, we did away with a rule which was a legacy, a dubious legacy of the British Empire of getting those certificates attested by the gazetted officers. And when I myself put across that when I came from a semi-urban background, I didn't know where to find a gazetted officer, and somebody asked me to shell out ₹5, he would do it for me. And immediately the Prime Minister gave us the approval, and we were able to send out a message across the country that look here, now this is a government which has the capacity to trust the youth of this country, to trust the citizens of this country. We're no longer a colonial government. And soon after that, within 3 months, on the 15th of August 2015, on the ramparts of Red Fort in his Independence Day address, Prime Minister Modi said, could we do away with the practice of conducting interviews in the recruitment, because there were a lot of complaints of nepotism, so on and so forth. And I'm glad the Department of DOPT took a fast track exercise. Within 3 months, we completed the entire process, and from the 1st of January 2016, we could issue the circular abolishing interviews in the recruitment process. And soon after that, as you know, you have been repeatedly said by the speakers earlier, Prime Minister had given the mantra of maximum governance, minimum government. Now, in simple terms, what does that mean? To put it very simply, it would mean more of citizen centricity, more of accountability, more of transparency, more of timeline discipline, more of ease of procedures. And that would be optimally possible when we introduce maximum use of technology and also tend to reduce the human interface. And therefore, I'm glad, as the Honorable Chief Minister was also saying, we have resorted to online processes. At least 90% or more of the working of the Government of India is online. And having worked over the last 12 years with about 24 secretaries in Government of India with the multiple departments related to me, I can say with a certain amount of confidence that I made a rule for myself not to leave a file unsigned past midnight. And every secretary, present, past, or now superannuated, will bear me out, because the principle was that before the secretary comes back to the table at 9:30 or 10, the meeting should be, the file should always be there. And Rachna Shah is silently smiling, I'm sure. She's approving what I'm saying or endorsing. So that is the magic of all these technologies having put to optimum use. The Honorable Chief Minister was also referring to the Darbar move. I'm glad that the same department of ARPG helped the government of J&K also to shift over to online processes. And that has brought a tremendous ease in the Darbar move process. The crores of rupees which are spent in packing the files, binding them, unbinding them, and the time loss of 2 weeks in between has already been taken over. You just have to change your desk, change your place, and there it is there on your desktop. Now, this is one government which has not taken pleasure in introducing more and more rules, as I said, to ease the processes. Otherwise, at the end of the day, when an officer is superannuated, the minister becomes, the next minister takes pride in telling the grandchildren, "Mere zamane mein ye kanun aaya." So I think this is the government which would say we did away with at least 2,000 rules in this department, which of course included the gazetted officer, which I said, which did away with the interviews. And some of these had a huge socio-economic impact. Like, for example, we did away with the rule which called for a separated daughter or a divorced daughter becoming eligible for family pension only if she had a court verdict. Now, living up to the norms and the values being followed in the contemporary society, we have done away with that. You can see how many years it takes for an litigation to culminate or conclude. Similarly, another rule which was very much relevant for the violent hit areas, regions like Jammu and Kashmir, Northeast, if an employee goes missing, you can't, his family is not entitled to family pension unless you wait for 7 years. Either he comes back or you discover his dead body, or if nothing of the two, then you wait for 7 years. And we've seen so many, and I also had the opportunity of working in Northeast for as long as 7 years. There were times you would find every third day one of the other officers going missing. And those were also years when the family needed the pension to go. So we did away with that. Similarly, again, as far as pension is concerned, a woman employee is no longer obligated to nominate only her spouse. She can choose any family member as the nominee, going by the kind of socio-economic conditions that we live in. Similarly, carrying forward the dictum of reform, perform, and transform, as Chief Secretary Abdullah was mentioning, we have actually changed the format of the PM Excellence Award that he was referring to. Earlier on, the award was mostly based on the personal profile of the DM. And very often I realized it was happening by default. अरे साहब जम्मू कश्मीर को 2004 साल से दिया नहीं, इस बार दे दीजिए. तो किसको दे? नहीं, श्रीनगर वाले को तो पिछले साल दिया था. जम्मू वाला भी ले गया और बचा उधमपुर वाला. This was more of an exclusion. So we made it more objective. All